The Archangel Chronicles 2, Chapter 19, The Listener at Dawn, by Raymond Collodi, copyright 2026, all rights reserved.
O Son divine, of God the Father's deathless face, O image of the light sublime, that fills the heavenly dwelling place, O Son of God, source of life, praise is your due by night and day. O happy lips must raise the strain of your esteemed and splendid name. Lord Jesus Christ, as daylight fades, as shine the lights of eventide, we praise the Father and the Son, the Spirit blessed and with them one.
Sophia. It was a day after the battle, and the land itself seemed to breathe more gently. We moved south and west, away from the bloodied basin. Gondophares borne on a litter between two horses, his great frame diminished now, his breath shallow, his skin hot beneath my hand. Lucia walked beside him whenever she could, singing softly when the pain sharpened and the fever pulled him away from us. Calliope followed, silent but unbroken, her presence a steady pillar. Axia rode close, her horse archers fanning out around us like watchful spirits. 20 riders, silent, alert, their bows strung and ready. By dusk we reached the caravanserai beyond Ashkelon, near the borders of Herod's kingdom, in a grove of balsam trees where the scent of resin hung in the air like a blessing. There, at last, we were reunited with the rest of the Star Walkers. Melchior came first to us, his robe dust-stained, his eyes bright with relief. Balthasar followed, embracing Adam fiercely. Behind them came Joseph and Mary, the child cradled close, safe at last among familiar faces. Stories spilled out in fragments of narrow escapes, of Herod's men scattered, of the star's strange presence, even as it faded from the heavens. Only one among us stayed apart. Brigomarus sat beyond the firelight, alone beneath the open sky, his great frame hunched, his face turned away from the camp. Raphael was with him. I could not see him clearly, but I felt his presence, like a hush in the air. He does not believe himself worthy, Adam said quietly, watching him. Raphael's voice seemed to come from the night itself. Worthy is not the measure. Willing is. Adam spoke. By every art I know, Gondophares should have been dead by midnight. He had cleaned the wound, stitched what he could, and bound it tight. But the flesh was angry, the fever relentless. We had no wine strong enough, no poultice that could draw the corruption out. Adam sat with him throughout the long hours, listening to his breath falter, rise, and falter again. I read to him from my scrolls when he drifted, keeping my voice steady, recounting our travels as if memory itself could tether him to life. Axia knelt beside him, her great hands folded, praying in the tongue of her people. Lucia wept openly, no longer hiding her love for the king who had sheltered her and her mother when the world had turned cruel. Near midnight, Raphael came to Adam. "You cannot win this battle," he said gently. "I know," Adam answered, his voice breaking. "Tell me who can." Raphael looked east, then south, watched the dawn. In the blue hour, when the earth has not yet chosen between night and day, she will come. "Who?" "The listener at dawn," he said. "She who hears the harmonies hidden in light. She will heal the king, bind the warrior's soul, and show the child's path to safety." And he was gone. Adam did not sleep. Just before sunrise, when the sky was neither dark nor light, but a deep, trembling blue, Adam touched my arm. "Look," he said. I turned south. A figure approached from across the low rise beyond the caravanserai, moving with unhurried grace. She wore undyed linen, pale against the dark earth, stained here and there with ink. A reed pen was tucked into her belt. Beside her walked a dozen men and women, dressed the same, their steps silent, their faces calm. They halted at the gate. The woman lifted her face to the rising sun. Her breath slowed. For a moment, she seemed not a person at all, but a shape of morning. But she turned her pale gray eyes upon Adam. A dozen followers, both men and women, dressed in similar linen robes, stood behind her. In unison, they raised their faces toward the rising sun and began to sing.
Before the sun walks the sky, before the birds remember their names, there is a silence thin as breath upon glass. In that silence, we not yet fire, or brightness without heat. You pass between the worlds like a messenger unwearied. You do not shout, you You burst the eyelids of water, and dreams loosen their grip. Blessed are those awake in the blue hour, for they hear what the noon forgets. Blessed are the still, for angels walk softly. We praise you, first train, not as symbol, but as presence. You are the road of the messengers, the garments of the word, the ladder where prayer ascends and mercy descends. From you the waters take their path. From you the singers take their pitch. From you the wounded learn that light does not accuse. Teach us to receive, not to seize. Teach us to see without grasping. Teach us to stand where earth and heaven share a single breath. If we are called, let us answer. If we are silent, let us listen. If we are broken, let your gentleness pass through us as morning through the leaves. For you come not to burn, but to reveal, not to conquer, but to name. And when the sun at last takes your place, and the world grows loud with the labor, remain with us in memory, hidden as a seed of fire in the heart. Amen. So be it. Let the lights
The woman I first saw stepped forward and raised her hand over Adam's head. "Adam, anyone," she said, her voice quiet but carrying. "Stranger from another time, we have come far to meet you, and the child and his mother whom you shelter. Praise be to you from the Most High, for you have sheltered the light of the world." By then the others had gathered: Balthazar, Melchior, Axia, Lucia. The woman inclined her head to each of us in turn. "I am Mara ben Hannaniah," she said. "Some call me the listener at dawn." Balthazar stepped forward, wonder written plainly on his face. "I know you. I met you once, many years ago, when I came to Alexandria to study at the museum. You spoke to me of the stars that sing." Mara smiled. "And you listened." I felt my breath catch. "Your hymns," I whispered. "I have read them. They're Mareotic scrolls. They taught me that dreams are the ears of the soul." Her gaze warmed. "Then you have already walked with us." As we spoke, Mara explained her people's way, and Balthazar joined her easily, as if resuming an old conversation. "We seek no power," Mara said, "only clarity. Light is not a metaphor, it is a messenger. At dawn, the veils thin, angels travel on gradients of radiance. And dreams," Balthazar added, "are how the soul overhears heaven." Mara nodded. To interpret rightly is an act of worship. To misread is to turn away from the light. There was no arrogance in her words, only quiet certainty. Then she went to Gondophares. She knelt beside him, laid 2 fingers lightly at his temple, then at the wound. "The flesh is inflamed, but the spirit is stubborn," she said to Adam. "That is good." She summoned her companions. They brought herbs wrapped in linen, dark resins, crushed leaves, bitter-smelling oils. They worked with practiced ease, chanting softly, not spells, but psalms, woven with breath. By evening, Gondophares slept. His fever broke in the night. The next day, Mara took Adam and me aside. "We will take him with us," he said, "to Mareotis. My people are skilled in the long art of healing." Adam nodded. "Go, save him." Melchior and Balthazar joined us, and then Mara looked at them thoughtfully. "The star-bearers will need a home," she said. "Come with us. Live among the dawn readers." They exchanged a glance and agreed. Mara asked to see Joseph, Mary, and the child near the hour when the sun had just passed the first ascent, when the light no longer trembles but settles into the world. Joseph received her in the upper room of the caravanserai, a simple chamber with whitewashed walls and a single window, narrow and open to the sea air. Mary sat upon a low couch, the child resting against her breast, his small hand curled in the fold of her cloak. The room was quiet in a way that felt intentional, as though even the dust had learned to wait. Mara entered barefoot. She did not speak at once. She stood just inside the threshold, her head slightly bowed, her breath slowing. I watched her shoulders rise and fall once, twice, and then still. Her eyes lifted, and when they fell upon the child, they filled at once with tears. She crossed the room and knelt, not quickly, not dramatically, but as one who has reached the place where she has been walking toward all her life. "My Lord," she whispered loudly, not formally, but as one speaks to light itself. "So this is how you come." The child stirred, his eyes opened. For a moment, no longer than a moment, I felt the room grow vast, as though it had opened inward rather than outward. Mara did not flinch. She did not reach out. She only listened. Mary watched her closely. "You hear him," she said softly. Mara nodded, still kneeling. "Not with the ears," she replied. "With the place where sound becomes meaning." Joseph shifted slightly, uncertain whether to speak. "You are Mara," he said at last, "the one who sent word ahead." "Yes," she answered, rising slowly to her feet. "And more importantly, I am the one who has waited." She turned to Joseph then, meeting his gaze fully. You guard what heaven entrusted. You do not ask why, only how. Joseph inclined his head. That is all I know how to do. That is enough, Mara said gently. She looked back to Mary. You said yes when the light asked for shelter, Mara said. Do you know what that costs? Mary did not hesitate. Yes? Mara's composure broke then. She stepped forward and took Mary's hands in hers, pressing her forehead briefly against them. Then forgive us, Mary whispered. All of us who study, who interpret, who sing, while you carry what cannot be set down. Mary lifted her face. There is nothing to forgive. The child reached out then, his fingers brushing Mara's sleeve. She inhaled sharply, as though struck by music too pure to bear. You do not accuse, Mara said, her voice trembling. You reveal. She laughed softly through her tears. All my life I taught that light speaks. I did not know it would answer. Joseph watched this in silence, then said quietly, Will we be safe? Mara turned to him, steady again. For a time, she said, long enough. There is a house in Alexandria, in the Jewish quarter, prepared by my people. You will be hidden among those who listen more than they speak. And after? Joseph asked. Mara did not look away from the child. After, the world must decide what it will do with light that does not burn its enemies. Mary drew the child closer. He will not force them. No, Mara agreed. He will invite them. She stepped back, giving them space again, and bowed low, this time not to the child alone, but to Mary. Blessed are you, she said, for you believed the light could be carried by a human heart. Mary answered simply, Blessed are those who keep him safe. For a moment, none of us spoke. Outside, the sounds of departure drifted faintly with soft voices, the rustle of linen, the beginning of song. Mara straightened. We will go now, she said, but not far. She looked once more at the child, and this time she smiled, not with awe, but with peace. Listen well, she said softly. The world will grow loud. The child blinked slowly, then closed his eyes. Mara turned and left the room without another word. And when she was gone, the light remained. Mara then asked to see Lucia, her mother, and the silent monk who had sheltered them from the Kushans and helped them escape Bukhara. We found them at the edge of the grove, where the balsam trees thinned and the light softened into amber. Lucia sat on a low stone, her lyre resting against her knee, her fingers moving absently over the strings without sounding them. Calliope sat beside her, hands folded, her eyes following the last threads of daylight. A little apart from them, seated cross-legged on the earth, was the monk, still composed, his saffron robes faded by long travel. He had been a silent witness to all we had seen and done since they joined our company outside of Bukhara. His quiet presence was felt and loved by Lucia and her mother. He had suffered the rigors of the trip and stood in silent witness over the event of these many months. He had been with us in Bethlehem and shared our vision and meeting with the child of light, yet he had spoken few, if any, of the words at all. He had spoken even less since the battle, but his silence was not emptiness. It was attention. Mara approached without announcing herself. The monk opened his eyes before she reached them. He studied her for a moment, then inclined his head. "You walk as one who listens." Mara returned the bow, deeper than courtesy required, and said, "And you sit as one who has learned not to flee silence." Lucia looked between them, wonder flickering across her face. "You understand each other." The monk smiled faintly. "Understanding is not required, only recognition." Calliope reached out and touched Lucia's arm, her voice still silent, but her gaze was clear, intentful, and grateful. Mara knelt before her. "You have endured much," Mara said softly. "Your sorrow has been long." Calliope closed her eyes. Her breath trembled once. Mara did not speak to her. Instead she said, "Some grief loosens only when it is no longer carried alone." Calliope's hand tightened around Lucia's. Lucia sighed. "He saved us," she said, nodding toward the monk. "When we had no one, when the road was dangerous and my mother could not speak, he guarded us without asking who we were." The monk bowed his head slightly. "To protect those in suffering is not heroism," he said. "It is what we must all do." Mara turned to him fully now. "Tell me your name." "I am called Kori Anandasuri," he replied. "I come from the western edge of the Kushan roads. I once walked east. Now I walk where need draws me." "You have listened to sorrow," Mara said, "and you have not turned away." The monk met her gaze. "Sorrow is a teacher. It instructs without mercy, but also without deceit," he said. Mara smiled. "Then you already understand our way." She gestured towards the Therapeutae camp, where the first low notes of evening prayer were beginning to rise. "My people live by listening, to breathe, to light, to the wounds that speak beneath words." The monk tilted his head. "You listen outward. We listen inward." Mara shook her head gently. There is no wall between them. Lucia's fingers brushed the lyre strings, and this time a soft note sounded, almost accidental. The monk's eyes flickered towards it, attentive. "Music," he said, "is the mind remembering its original shape." Mara looked at Lucia. "You see?" Lucia nodded slowly. "Yes." Mara returned her gaze to the monk. "Come with us," she said simply. "Not to convert, not to argue, only to dwell among those who practice listening as healing." The monk was silent for a long time. At last he said, "Your people follow light." "Yes, and you do not claim it as your own." "No," Mara said. "We stand where it passes." He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again. "Then we are not strangers." Calliope suddenly inhaled sharply. All three of us turned towards her. Her lips parted. For a moment nothing came. Then, like a reed finding its voice, After a long drought, a sound emerged. "Stay," she whispered. The word was rough, fragile, but unmistakable. Lucia gasped. Tears sprang to her eyes. She turned to her mother. "Mama." Calliope's voice failed her again, but her face shone with fierce intent. She looked at the monk and nodded. The monk bowed deeply to her. "Then I will stay with this Lady of Light." Mara placed her hand over her heart. "You will be welcome as a fellow keeper of stillness." The monk smiled, not broadly, but with the quiet joy of one whose path has narrowed into clarity. "As long as I may sit in silence," he said. Mara nodded. "That is our first rule." As dusk deepened and the Therapeutae's chant rose like a tide of breath and light, Lucia finally lifted her lyre and played a simple melody, unadorned, shaped by listening rather than by performance. The monk listened, Mara listened, Calliope listened with tears and wonder. And I understood that the road of light was wider than any single language, and those who truly listen will always find each other. I did not mean to overhear them. The camp had fallen into evening quiet. The Therapeutae were preparing to depart, their voices low, their movements unhurried. I had gone to fetch water from the well beyond the grove, where I saw Adam and Mara standing apart, near the line where lamplight gives way to shadow. They had not noticed me. Mara stood facing west, where the sun was sinking into haze and sea. Adam stood with his arms folded, a posture I'd come to recognize, not defensive, but braced. "You asked to speak with me," Adam said. Mara nodded. "Because you will not ask what I must tell you." He gave a faint, crooked smile. "I've learned that the questions find me anyway." She turned towards him fully. "You are not wrong." For a moment neither spoke. Then Mara said quietly, "You do not belong to this time." Adam exhaled. "No, but I seem unable to leave it." "Because you were not sent to escape," Mara replied. "You were sent to remain." Adam looked away. "Remain doing what?" "Witnessing," she said, "and binding." He frowned slightly. "Binding what?" "Wounds," Mara asked. "Yours, Sophia's, and those history will try to tear open again." He shook his head. "I'm not a healer like you. I patch bodies. I improvise. I survive." Mara studied him with an intensity that made even me hold my breath. "You understand healing," she said. "It is not the removal of pain. It is the refusal to abandon those who carry it." Adam was silent. "And Sophia?" he asked finally. Mara's expression softened. "She will write what others are afraid to remember." Adam's jaw tightened. "That will cost her." "Yes," Mara said, "and it will save her." He turned sharply. "You speak as if the suffering is already decided." "It is not decided," Mara said gently. "It is offered. You may still refuse it." Adam laughed quietly without humor. "You know I won't." "Yes," she said. "That is why I am speaking to you now." She gestured towards the road stretching southward. You and Sophia will not settle where others do. You will pass through cities and deserts, welcomed by some, mistrusted by many. You will stand near great events without controlling them. People will mistake you for scholars, for prophets, for fools. Adam grimaced. That sounds familiar. Mara continued, her voice steady. Sophia will learn that truth spoken too early can wound as deeply as truth spoken too late. She will doubt her calling. She will try to write less. Adam's shoulders stiffened. And I will tell her not to. Mara smiled faintly. Yes, and she will not listen. He sighed. Of course. Yet she will write anyways, Mara said, because the light has found a voice in her that will not be silenced. Adam swallowed. And me? Mara stepped closer. Her voice lowered. You will carry memory that does not belong to you. You will be tempted to interfere, to correct, to prevent suffering that you know will always come. He caught his breath. I already am. I know, said Mara. That will be your greatest trial. Not whether you believe, but whether you will restrain yourself. He looked at her sharply. People will suffer because I stay my hand. Yes, she said, and more will suffer if you do not. Silence settled between them like dust. At last, Adam said, Tell me this plainly. Do we survive? Mara did not answer immediately. When she did, it was carefully. You will live long enough, she said, to become less certain of everything except one another. Adam closed his eyes. And the end? He asked. Mara shook her head. That knowledge is not yours, nor mine. She placed her hand briefly over his heart. But this I can tell you. You and Sophia will not be remembered for what you prevent, but for what you refuse to turn away from. Adam opened his eyes. That's a hard legacy. Yes, Mara agreed, but a faithful one. She stepped back, the conversation clearly ending. As she turned away, Adam said almost to himself, Does the light ever ask less? Mara paused. No, she said softly, but it gives more. She walked back towards her people. I remained where I was, unseen, my water jar forgotten at my feet. And I understood then that some prophecies are not warnings, they are invitations. Later, Mara sought me out. She found me where I always go when sleep will not come, at the edge of the light, where the world hesitates. I was seated with my scroll across my knees, the ink still wet on the last line I had written. The sea lay dark beyond the grove, breathing steadily, and above it, the stars thinned, yielding to the first pale wash of morning. Mara did not announce herself. She sat beside me on the stone, close enough that I could feel the quiet weight of her presence. You write at the hour when most people turn away, she said. I write when the words arrive, I answered. They do not ask whether it is convenient. She smiled. No, they never do. For a while we watched the horizon together. Then she spoke again. You wonder what will become of you. I did not deny it. I wonder whether what I see is meant to be spoken at all. Mara turned her head slightly, studying my face. That is the question that marks you as a listener. I sighed. Adam was told many things tonight, wasn't he? Yes, Mara said gently, and you will not be told the same. I felt a flicker of something, relief perhaps, or disappointment. Then tell me what is mine. Mara placed her hand on the scroll in my lap, like one acknowledging a living thing. You will be given more than you can carry, she said, and you will carry it anyway. My breath caught. You will see events before they are understood, she continued, and you will understand them before anyone is ready to hear them. That sounds like loneliness, I said quietly. It is, Mara replied, but it is not abandonment. I stared at the ink-stained edge of my fingers. I am afraid of misnaming what I see. Mara nodded. You will misname some things. All writers do. But you will not misname the light. You know it too well. She leaned closer, her voice lowering. Listen to me, Sophia of Alexandria, philosopher and scholar. You will be tempted to soften what you witness, to make it bearable for those who read you. I frowned. Is that wrong? It is merciful, Mara said, but it is not always faithful. She gestured toward the east, where the sky was beginning to pale. There will come a time when what you write will be read by those who are not there. They will wish the story had been kinder, simpler, less costly. I felt my throat tighten. And should I grant them that? No, Mara said firmly. You must grant them truth. Silence pressed in around us, dense and alive. You will write of light, Mara continued, but not as triumph. You will write of hope, but not as escape. You will write of love that does not prevent suffering, but enters it and remains. Tears blurred my vision. I don't know if I'm strong enough. Mara's hand closed briefly over mine. You are not. And that is why you will be given companions. I thought of Adam, of Lucia, of those whose story is already intertwined with mine. And there is something else, Mara said. I looked up. You will outlive moments you wish you did not, she said softly. You will remember things others choose to forget. You will be asked more than once why you do not simply lay down the pen. My voice shook. And what should I answer? Mara smiled, not unkindly. Nothing, she said. You will keep writing. You will be the answer. That will be the answer enough. The first true ray of dawn touched the edge of the sea, light spread, delicate and unstoppable. Mara rose. One last thing, she said. Yes? She looked at me with an intensity that felt like blessing and burden combined. You will never be neutral, she said. Your seeing will change you, and your writing will change others. Some will bless you for it. Some will fear you. And you? I asked. She inclined her head. I will recognize you. She stepped away then, joining her people at the dawn as the hymn began to rise, soft, measured, inevitable. I remained seated, the heavy scroll in my hand. And as the light grew stronger, I understood what Mara had given me was not foreknowledge. It was permission to see, to remember, to write, and not to look away. At last, Mara asked for Brigomarus. We found him laying under the open sky. He did not sleep. He lay on the bare ground beyond the reach of the campfires. The sky stretched above him like a wound that would not close. Every time he shut his eyes, he saw again the stones of Bethlehem, slick with blood, the swaddling cloth in his hands, the child's cry cut short. He had followed the star-bearers, yes. He had stood against Herod's men. He had not killed when killing would have been easy. But none of that felt like absolution. It felt like delay to him. He heard our footsteps approaching, soft, unhurried, as if the earth itself had chosen to make room for them. He sat up, already knowing who it would be. When Mara approached, he rose, as if summoned, awe written across his scarred face. "You are the one who hears the angels," he said hoarsely. "I listen," Mara replied, "and they speak of you." Mara stood a short distance away, her linen robe pale in the starlight, the faint smell of ink and herbs clinging to her. She looked upon Brigomarus, a look of compassion on her face. She waited. At last he said, "You should not come near me." She inclined her head slightly. "Why?" "I am stained," he said, "not with blood alone, but with obedience. I did what I was told when I knew it was evil." She sat on a stone opposite Brigomarus, folding her hands in her lap. "Then you are not unusual." He stared at her. "You speak lightly of murder." "I speak truthfully of humanity," she replied. "The question is not whether you obeyed evil. The question is whether you will continue to." He looked away. "I do not deserve a place among your people." Mara's gaze did not waver. "Who told you that?" "I know it," he said bitterly. "I have seen what I am capable of." "So have I," she said. That startled him. "You? You listen to angels. You heal kings." "I also listen to men," she said gently, "and men are often louder in their pain than angels in their speech." She leaned forward slightly. "Brigomarus of Ancria, do you believe that light exists only for the innocent?" He hesitated. "It should." "But it does not," she said. "Light exists for the wounded. Otherwise, it would never enter the world at all." The words struck something deep, painful, and true in Brigomarus. "I cannot undo what I have done," he said. "No," she agreed, "but you can decide what voice you obey next." He laughed quietly. "I have obeyed voices all my life, kings, commanders, crowds in the arena." "And now?" she asked. He was silent. Mara touched the ground between them with her fingers. "The Therapeutae do not command, we listen. We wake before dawn and attend to the first light, not to master it, but to hear what it carries." He shook his head. "I am not a listener. I am a man of action, of violence." She studied him for a long moment. Then she said, "Tell me when you first refused to kill again. Who spoke within you?" He swallowed. "No one." "That is not true," she said softly. "Someone spoke, or you would not have stopped." He closed his eyes. In the silence that followed, he remembered, not a voice exactly, but a pressure, a restraint, knowing that had risen unbidden when the dagger was in his hand. It did not shout, he admitted. It did not argue. Mara smiled faintly. The truest voices rarely do. She rose and stood before him. Dawn was beginning to thin the night, a pale blue trembling at the horizon. Our people are healers, she said, not because we are pure, but because we know how deeply the soul can fracture. Some of us were scholars, some were widows, some were once complicit in great wrongs. She met his eyes. We do not erase the past. We learn to carry it without letting it rule us. Brigomarus felt his chest tighten. And if I fail? Then you will be forgiven, she said simply, and taught how to listen again. He bowed his head. Why do you want me? Her answer came without hesitation. Because the angels showed me a man who stood at the edge of despair and chose not to step into it. Because your soul still answers when light calls. She extended her hand, not as a command, not as a test, but as an invitation. Come with us, Brigomarus. Lay down the language of violence. Learn a new one. His hands shook as he took hers. I do not know how to be at peace, he said. You will learn, Mara replied. Peace is not silence. It is harmony. As the first true light broke across the horizon, the Therapeutae began to sing, their dawn hymn rising like breath through leaves. Brigomarus stood. For the first time since Bethlehem, he did not feel the urge to flee. She touched him gently on the head. The wounds you feel deep inside cannot be closed by strength, but by redemption. You must walk with me and walk the path, walked slowly, together with those who would help you, injured one. Come with us, she said. Learn to listen. He fell to his knees. I will. As dawn broke, Gondophares found he could sit up. He smiled faintly as Mara's followers gathered. The dawn was pale and tender, as if the world itself had learned the gentleness from her hands. The Therapeutae were already gathering beyond the caravanserai, their linen robes stirring softly in the sea breeze, their voices low with the morning prayer. Gondophares had slept, truly slept, for the first time since the wound, his breathing deep and even. Adam stood nearby, keeping watch, though the tension had eased from his shoulders. I found Mara apart from the others, seated on a low stone near the balsam grove. She held a small wax tablet in her lap, but she was not writing. She was listening to the wind, to the birds, to something farther still. I hesitated, then approached. You are leaving, I said. She smiled faintly. Yes, the light moves on. I sat beside her. For a while neither of us spoke. The hush between us felt full, not empty. At last I said, I have read your words, long before I met you. They taught me to trust what comes in dreams, even when reason resists. Mara turned her face toward me, her eyes gentle, assessing without judgment. And yet you learned something more difficult than trust. What is that? To endure, she said. Listening is not only receiving, it is remaining when the message wounds. I swallowed. Sometimes I wish I did not hear so much. She sighed as though she had heard this confession many times before, spoken or unspoken. Every listener reaches that wish It is the moment when the gift becomes a cross. I looked out toward the horizon when the first sunlight touched the sand. How did you bear it? I did not, she answered simply, not alone. She laid her hand briefly over mine. Her touch was light, almost weightless. We listened together, she said, across time, across distance. You are not the first woman to sit with sorrow and try to give it meaning, and you will not be the last. I felt tears rise, unbidden. Sometimes I fear that what I write will only preserve grief. Mara shook her head. No, you preserve witness. Grief that is witnessed is transformed. It becomes seed. She reached into the folds of her robe and drew out a narrow strip of parchment, worn soft at the edges. Take this, she said. I hesitated. I cannot take what belongs to your people. It belongs to yours as well. She placed it in my hands. On it was written a single line, in a careful, spare script. Light does not accuse, it reveals. This is not a prophecy, Mara said. It is a discipline. When you no longer know how to judge what you see, return to this. I closed my fingers around the parchment. Will we meet again? She smiled, not sadly, but knowingly, in the way that matters. I turned to her then fully. Mara, when you spoke to the child, I saw you weep. Was it sorrow or joy? Her gaze drifted towards the caravanserai where Mary stood in the doorway, the child in her arms, Joseph beside her. Both, Mara said softly. The purest light always carries the longest shadow. She inclined her head towards Mary. She knows this already. That is why heaven trusts her. The Therapeutae began to sing then, their dawn hymn rising like breath through the reeds. One by one, they formed their procession. Mara rose. She bowed to me not as teacher to a student, but as one listener to another. Write faithfully, Sophia, she said, not to be understood, but to be true. I stood as well, and you listen for us. She smiled, always. Then she turned and walked back towards her people, her figure slowly dissolving into the moving linen and morning light, until she was indistinguishable from the others. In the silence that followed, I understood some farewells do not close a door. They widened the horizon. They departed singing, soft hymns that rose and fell like a breath, like light itself moving through sound. Mara walked at their head. Brigomarus walked beside her. Melchior and Balthazar followed, and Gondophares in his carriage. As they receded into the desert, dancing and singing towards Lake Mareotis, I knew we had witnessed not an ending, but the weaving of another thread into the great tapestry of light. The rest of us departed before the heat rose. There was no trumpet, no command shouted across the courtyard, only the soft sounds of preparation, leather straps drawn tight, the low murmur of animals, the creak of a gate easing open. The caravanserais still slept, save for those of us who knew that this leaving was not an escape, but a passage. Joseph led the donkey by the reins. Mary rode astride, the child wrapped close against her breast, hidden beneath the folds of her cloak. She moved with care, but without fear. Her eyes were clear, awake, as though she listened inwardly to a voice that did not hurry. Adam walked near them, not as guard but as witness. Accuse horse archers fanned out at a distance, visible enough to deter pursuit, but far enough to appear only as travelers. I walked beside Mary for a time. "Are you afraid?" I asked quietly. She considered the question, then answered with the honesty that never sought adornment. "I am watchful," she said. "Fear looks backward. Watchfulness looks forward." The child stirred then, a small, round, half sigh, half breath. Mary smiled, adjusted the wrap around him. I felt the air change, as if something unseen had leaned closer. Joseph glanced back at us. "The road will be long," he said, "but it is a road I know. I have worked in Egypt before. There are Jews in Alexandria who will take us in." "Friends of Mara," Adam said. Joseph nodded. "She has prepared a place." The land changed as we went, stone giving way to softer sand, the harsh Judean ridges loosening into long open reaches. The sky grew wilder. The wind carried the scent of the sea, faint at first, then clear as the hours passed. At midday we rested beneath a stand of tamarisk. Water was shared sparingly. No one spoke loudly. Joseph checked the donkey's tack, careful and thorough. Mary sat apart, rocking the child gently, murmuring a psalm so quietly that it seemed meant only for him. Adam sat nearby, his gaze distant. "You have walked this road before," I said. "In another life," he replied, "but never like this." "Never carrying hope instead of knowledge?" He smiled faintly, never knowing that history itself was writing beside me. He looked toward the child, then away again, as if the sight was almost too much. That night we camped far from any road. The fire kept low. Axia's riders watched the perimeter, but no sound of pursuit came. The stars burned clear above us, indifferent and ancient. Joseph sat by the fire, shaping a small piece of wood with his knife. It was nothing recognizable yet, only a habit of his hands, a craft that steadied the mind. Mary lay nearby, the child sleeping soundly. I joined Joseph quietly. "You do not speak much of what is to come." He did not look up. "Because it is not given to me to know it, only to do what is set before me." "And what is that?" "To keep them safe," he said simply. The fire popped softly. "Egypt is not home," I said. He nodded. "Neither was Bethlehem. Home is where obedience leads." He set the carving aside and looked toward Mary. "She bears more than I ever will. My task is small by comparison." I shook my head. "It is not small." He smiled just briefly. "Then pray I am equal to it." The next day we crossed beyond the reach of Herod's authority. There was no marker, no stone inscribed to tell us so, but the air changed. The men relaxed without realizing they had done so. The animals seemed to walk more easily. Even the sky felt less burdened. Our stallion reined in beside Adam. "We are beyond his hand now," Adam exhaled slowly. "Then the danger shifts but does not end." "No," our stallion agreed, "but it breathes differently." That evening, Mary spoke to me as we shared bread. "Sophia," she said, "you write what you see." "Yes." "And what you do not understand." "Yes," I said again. She rested her hand over mine. "Then write this, that the light does not flee darkness. It enters quietly and waits." I bowed my head. I will remember. She smiled. You will write it. That is how you remember. On the horizon, days later, the faint outline of the great city rose white against the blue, like something dreamed into being. Alexandria, a place of learning, of argument, of many tongues and many gods, a place of refuge and danger in equal measure. Mary looked toward it without hesitation. There, she said softly. Joseph tightened his grip on the reins. Yes, there. The child stirred, opened his eyes for a moment. The light caught them, and for an instant, no longer, I thought I saw reflected in them the road behind us and the road yet to come. And I knew that this journey, like all others, was only a beginning. Music for Chapter 19. O Radiant Light, O Sun Divine, a 3rd century Christian hymn. Music and voice by Magi AI. Hymn of the First Ray. Words by Raymond Collotti. Music and voices by Magi AI. The following from Epidemic Sound. An Undeterminate Fate by Philip Ayres. Angelica by David Edward. Raga for Stillness by Axe and Lakshmi. Solace by Christopher Mo Ditlevson. Impenetrable by Philip Ayres. Space Elf by David Edward. Beyond the Horizon by Rachel Sandy. Wrath of Arius by Rachel Sandy. Terra Requiem by Diane Shuai. Hail Mary by Edgar Hopp. Archangel Chronicles 2, Chapter 19. Listener at Dawn by Raymond Collotti. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved.